Hello everybody, this is Dr. Novak, and I was asked two questions. One question was, what if I don't like this tube that is added onto the slow moving plenum? And that was a good question. Another question I had that was asked of me is, I would like to have a slow moving plenum in my planted aquarium, but the trouble is I have to use the air stone. I cannot connect it up to a filter. And those are two things I forgot to cover in one of my videos, that you can use this with a planted aquarium very easily. One thing you have to remember when you put the two filter plates together, they come together like this. You have to clear out the openings here. As you can see, you got to clear these out, and you put these little tabs in here like this, and these keep the filter plates together. So remember to do that, because if you put your lift tube up here, you want to make sure it can carry the water all the way through. So that's just something I forgot to maybe say the first time. But anyhow, let's work on the plate. Let's say this is your plate, just like I made. And of course you don't wish to do it like this. It locks in there. Now, you don't want to have all this, and then you have to make this, and you have to, so that's not a very good idea. I don't like this. This is kind of garbagey, actually. When I made the video, after I made the video, I realized that it can be done a lot simpler than like this, and make it to the height you want. Okay, so when you buy the filter, you're going to have a lift tube like this. First thing you have to determine, okay, is how deep you're going to make your substrate. And that will of course depend on you, whether you want to make a substrate that is 3 inches, 2 inches, whatever you want to make it. So that's what you're going to cut this tube to be exactly. So let's say you want your substrate to be 2 inches, you would cut the tube here. From here to here. If you want it to be 3 inches, you'd cut here. But let's say mine is only about 1.5 inches. From here to here, only 1.5 inches. If you would like to have 2, make it 2. That's where you're going to do your cut, and you're going to trim it up at the 2 inch. If you want your substrate to be deeper, you can. So this is how you're going to determine the length of this from here, this surface, to here, how long this is going to be. So that's pretty simple. Next thing you're going to do is, once you cut it to the length, you're going to put your cap on. These come with it. All right. This is what somebody asked me. They didn't like the way this looks, and personally, I don't like the way it looks either. If this was shorter down here, even this poking out, cosmetically in a fish tank, no, it doesn't look good. So I said, oh, I'm sorry. Now in the lab, what we did was we bought this. This is something that you can buy at Lowe's, Home Depot. You can buy it at any hardware store, Ace. And what they are is caps. And these caps fit, when you put this like this, here's another kind of cap, and they snap on. There. Okay? There's different kinds of caps. They come in gray, or they come in black. I'm going to open this up so you can see exactly what I'm doing. Of course, it doesn't open unless I get a pair of scissors, and that is easily done because I'm out in the workshop. So we'll cut this off, and we grab the 1 inch cap. Now look at that, fits like a glove, perfect. Okay, so let's just say this is the right length you want it. How you're going to put your substrate all the way up to here. So your substrate's going to go all the way up to the top. This is going to be your slow moving plenum uplift tube. First thing you're going to do is, in the cap here, it shows you where the center is. So the first thing you want to do is find out what kind of tubing you're going to be using. I just use this nice silicone tubing, top fin 25. It's real nice, and I like to use this tubing. And I turn around, and another thing you're going to have to do is you're going to have to put a check valve onto your tubing. Just connect it up like this. It's a check valve. Of course, if you blow in it, air will come out. Blowing it the other way, air won't come out. So you'll have to add a check valve. This one's a tetra check valve. Yep, tetra check valve. Okay, so what are we going to do? The first thing we have to do is we're going to have to drill into this. One way of doing that is you can get some step drills or normal drills. These step drills you can buy at Harbor Freight Tools. They cost like, I don't know, sometimes you can buy them on sale for $5-10. Normally costs $15. You get a set of 3 at Harbor Freight Tools. They're great if you're going to be working with plastic. So that's what I like to use to drill the center hole. Now what we're going to do is we're going to drill the center hole, but we're going to make it tight onto the airline tubing. So we'll just take the drill, and we're going to drill the hole right smack dab in the center. And once you have the hole, you determine how big that hole has to be to fit the tubing. You want the tubing to be snug. Maybe a little bit bigger. Okay. Let's see if that does it. And where are we at here? Right now we're at a 1/4 inch. We're in a 1/4 inch hole. And there. Tubing fits snug. That's what you want. You want a snug fit. So that's a 1/4 inch hole. The next thing you want to do is remove this. Now, depending on the size of your substrate, if you're using sand, you're going to go with smaller holes. If you're going to use, let's say, gravel as a substrate, or maybe some of these planted material substrates, you'll be able to make the holes a little bit bigger. So that's exactly what we're going to do now. We're just going to drill about 90 thousandths holes into this. Now what I like to do is go undersize and then go with the drill I'm going to finish the holes with. This is called drill reaming. In other words, you go with 15 to 30 thousandths undersize, then you go with another drill that will be bigger. So all you do is just find a pattern that you want, and start drilling holes in it. The location of the holes doesn't matter. It's up to you what you want. But I like to do it against a piece of wood because you always seem to, and make them far enough apart so you can put your holes in without breaking into another hole. Now, how the holes are positioned, don't worry about it. That's not real critical. Depends on how neat you want to be, where you're going to position the holes at, as long as they really don't break into each other. And then you can determine whether or not you want to add more holes in. Now I get a 90 thousandths drill. Take out the smaller drill. Now my substrate is big enough where it will not go inside these holes, okay? If you're using sand, you may want to go with the smaller drill bits, a lot smaller, and you could put more holes in it. And then you could just re-go over all the holes. This is called drill reaming. And that makes the hole exactly the same size as the drill. Cleans out the hole. Okay. You can add as many holes as you want in there. I see I can add more holes into this, so that's exactly what I'm going to do. Add a lot more holes into this piece of plastic to let the air bubbles out. Find a spot that has enough room. Here's a spot here. And let's see what else we got. Yeah, we can find another one here. Here's a room for another hole. All right. Sometimes you could put a hole off to the side, which I can. There's plenty of room to add more holes. So you don't have to have a strict pattern of how you do it. Don't worry, it depends on, what can I say, how anal you want to be on making the particular piece here. But you don't have to be real critical with making a special pattern. That's strictly up to you, because actually you're not going to see this. It's not going to be something that's going to be visually not appealing to anybody. Okay, that looks pretty good. And I think that should be about it. Maybe I'll put another one over. No, maybe I'll leave it alone. Okay, that's about it. And then I usually get a little chamfering tool and just chamfer things a little bit. A nice sharp chamfering tool works real good on plastic. You can also sand it. Like I said, nobody going to pay attention to this because this is going to be in the back of the aquarium or in the middle of the aquarium. Now, it doesn't matter, actually. Okay, looking good. Okay, it doesn't matter whether this sits here or here on your filter plate, because some people may want it here and some people may want this bubbler here in the center. Let's say you had two plates or you had a 55-gallon tank. You put the bubblers here or here. So you've already have this cut to size. You're going to have 2 inches of gravel, 3 inches of gravel. You cut it to the size of how high you're going to make your gravel. This then you push this in and that will fit perfect. Next thing you're going to do is you're going to, with all this, you take all this off. You're going to put this in here. Now remember, it's snug. Put your air stone on like this. Now you're going to put this in here. It hits bottom and you just pull it down like that. That's it. So now when you fill this up full of gravel, the gravel is going to go all the way to the top here. Okay? Right up to here. Now, this then goes to your air pump. Of course, you're going to have one of these. Now, of course, if you're running a planted aquarium, you're not going to want to run this during the day. You're going to probably be running CO2, and you're not going to want air bubbles to drive off the CO2 out of the whole tank. So what I've told people is do what the Japanese do. The Japanese, they stick an air stone in their tanks and they run the air stones only at night. So, and this works out great. You put your air pump on a timer, and then at night when your CO2 turns off and you're done and your plants are done photosynthesizing, this comes on. And this will run only at night. And this will still move the water slowly through it, which means that that's great because then it will bring things into the substrate. It's not going to go anaerobic. Okay, don't worry about it. It will not go anaerobic because you still have a plenum. Okay, even if this is not bubbling, you still have a plenum. So it's not going to go anaerobic. Not like if you put the substrate directly on the tank bottom. That can start going anaerobic because water is not being exchanged from the bottom to the substrate. You see, here's what's happening. The bottom of the aquarium, let's say this is the bottom of the aquarium, that's the intersection of topography. And water can't travel through the substrate like it can this. This under gravel filter will actually let the water travel through the substrate and come back through this way. The slow moving Plenum just makes the water move very slowly so things go through so you can build up anoxic conditions, which just means low oxygen conditions. So actually, when under gravel filters came out back in the 40s, they had little bitty 3H lift tubes. And in reality, that was the right way to do it. And they didn't know it. Manufacturers changed it to these 1-inch lift tubes, and then it completely changed the way under gravel filters work. Not only did they grow bacteria, but the next problem was they started acting like mechanical filters because they were pulling in dirt, detritus, and food into the gravel because they were running so fast. Then, of course, manufacturers said, oh, we have to even improve on that. We're going to put power heads. So even more water went through. So they just became mechanical filters. You don't want these really to become mechanical filters. You want them just to become biological filters only. So if you put your gravel, and let's say you put your 3 inches of gravel or however tall you're going to put your substrate. Gravel substrate, there's videos on, and I'll put a link below that show you how you can use a screen, then you can put kitty litter, then you can put your laterite or a substitute. He shows everything about that. Then he put his substrate on top of that, what he wanted to use for his plants, because I know some of that plant substrate's very expensive. Anyhow, not like kitty litter, which is extremely cheap. So mine's only about 1.5 inches up. Some people say, oh, I want about 2 inches of gravel. That is where you would cut this, and that's how tall this would be, from here to here, 2 inches. Mark it, and then cut it, trim it, clean it up, and then put it together. Now, another thing of it is that I want to tell you, because you may have this cap. When you cut this tube here, it tapers. It gets wider at the bottom and it's smaller at the top. So as you cut it, this is going to be wider here than it is here. And you may have a problem getting this on. In order to get this on, if you're going down lower, let's say it's going to be here and you're going to cut all this off. See, like I did here, this is all that I cut off the other tube. So it's not very high. The thing you want to do is you want to take this and you want to put it in hot water or boiling water and get it nice and soft. Then it will slip over. And then once the heat dissipates from it, the plastic, it will shrink again and be real nice fit on top of this, and it won't come off. But you're going to notice that if you do happen to cut this off, this may be real hard to get on. Hot water or boiling water, put it in a cup and let it sit a few minutes so it gets softer. Like right now, this is hard, and it will get softer. Then you can push it on all the way and you'll say, oh, it works perfect now. So that's just another little trick I found out that you can do. And of course, once you're completely done, I'll show you what it looks like, but I call this the sewer lid way of doing it, where you would put a top on this instead of having this big old bulky thing coming out of here. Even if it's down this low and your gravel comes up this high, let's say, you still have to have all this sticking out. It really looks bad. So I'll show you exactly how it looks on my tank. And as you can see, here it is running in the tank. One of them that I made the same way. It's as high as the gravel is. It doesn't have that big bulky looking head on it. And like I said before, at night, you would run it at night if you have a planted tank, and during the day you would just turn the air pump off. Quite simple. It cosmetically looks a little bit better than the other way that I had shown you. And it's not that difficult to make one of these caps for it. Another alternative if you can't hook it up to a aquarium pump or filter. So I hope this helps. If you have any more questions, just let me know. Until next time, I'll see you then.